Okay, so in terms of leadership, the tensions and complex demands are many, in the sense that as a leader you're expected to develop and have your own opinion and approach to teaching and learning that may often and almost always, I feel, runs counter to the societal approach to education. Everyone's speaking as though education is medicine, that research is a clear-cut thing that you pick up and apply directly to your teaching, rather than the hot, messy, complicated, screaming, yelling, complex, calm, relaxing abundance of conundrums that are the actual teaching and learning process. Rather than direct instruction or inquiry, it's a whole different range of things based off basically conversations and direct interactions with students, reading the room, noticing what students you have, and relating to their context, to their particular background, to their experiences. It's immensely complicated, and to apply that understanding to a school and then expecting a change process to follow from that is very complicated, as it involves you communicating that to all your leaders, and then all the way down to all your teachers, and then down to your students, as well as your community, your parents, and so forth. So the global education reform movement can be visualized as one side of the coin, and then how closely you align your school with that movement is in part what leadership involves. Being aware of that and being aware of the research, or the broad spectrum of research, and how that relates to your position as a school and your role as a leader is incredibly complicated. And within that, so as you try to involve society, parents, teachers, students, all in this one shared goal, shared mission that you're trying to do, there's also the complexity of the fact that you're working within narrow confines, in the sense that basically the pay scale is already set, the departmental goals are already set, so you're trying to fit within increasingly narrow expectations of you as a leader and as a school, and yet you're trying to find space within that to do something truly interesting and truly engaging, and attempting to, in essence, change the world, or change one small patch of dirt on the earth in the world, to be involved in that and actually find success within those narrowing constraints. So the authors suggest, in regards to leadership and education systems, that basically, and I'm stealing this phrase from Vivian Robinson, who's a leadership author, academic, she talks about rather than bypass leadership, engage leadership, or something similar, and that's essentially what it's talking about throughout. So you're trying to get your teachers on board, but also trusting them to make their own decisions. So you're trying to give sort of a scope for teachers to work within, rather than necessarily free range. At least that's my impression of what I read of the authors. You're trying to communicate a clear vision and then take them along on the process with you. So trust and embolden teachers so that they can actually be the leaders of change, even in small ways, so leading a small group or leading a small discussion or whatever is appropriate. And then basically that's the complexity of it, actually engaging people in the process and then giving them freedom to actually enact what you see as the things that are worth changing, or the things that are worth improving in your school or in your system. So in this section I felt the vision of leadership was quite consistent, in the sense that it was quite clear what good leadership was. So there were the 10 strategies listed in one of the sections, and these were quite consistent with others, though perhaps the wording was a little bit different. So good leadership is quite clear. It's basically, to generalize, being a good human, being a good listener, talking and interacting, being empathetic, and so forth. So being what makes a good leader seems quite clear and nailed down in this section, but the different directions that the leaders choose to go, or are in, their identity requires them to go towards, are the things that are where we sort of get differences and the most interesting things emerge. So overall I found this section pretty exciting. The way that leadership is discussed and the changes that can be enacted in different systems is really interesting. Obviously a lot of the things described were from specific projects, and so that kind of raises the question of does everyone need to be involved in some sort of leadership development program or some kind of school change program, or is it possible to occur naturally and authentically within schools, or does it require the support of outsiders to achieve this? And that's an ongoing question, I'm not sure.